Professor Worgley's here. We just serialized and deserialized the person class and the person object. Remember, it's important that this class implements serializable. If I don't do this, I'm not able to serialize this class or this object. So if I take that off and run it, okay, and I type some information. So let's say I do a different Nick2, male, age 45, click save. Okay, I'll click person.str. Okay, I'll replace it. And look at this, I got an exception. So IO exception occurred while saving person.str. You'll see serialization example.person has a problem. It's not serializable. It's not serializable. And the reason it's not serializable is because I didn't implement the serializable interface. If you want to serialize a class or an object, it has to implement serializable. Now, what happens if I have some private data? I have the social security number. I don't want to share that information, even though I have this API and I want to open it up to everybody. Let's say like Facebook, you make a request to Facebook to grab some information. They don't want to share all their information. So if that's true, I can use a keyword here that we haven't seen before. It's called transient. I can call this variable transient like social security number, and that will make this variable excluded from the serialization method. Okay, we can take a look at what this means. You'll want to know transient for the final exam. Okay, here's Java T-Point. You know the three sites that I like to use. I like to use Java T-Point, Oracle, and Tutorials Point. If I search Java Transient Serialization, okay, we can see what this means. So you know the sites that I like. I like to use Java T-Point. So you'll see Java transient keyword is used in serialization. If you define any data member as transient, it will not be serialized. Let's take an example. You want to declare a class as student. It has 3 data members, ID, name, and age. If you serialize the object, all the values will be serialized, but I don't want to serialize one value, age. Then we can declare the age member as transient. Okay, so it will be ignored. You can see here on Wikipedia, transient is also defined. Transient is a property of any element in the system that is temporary. The term applies to transient applications, software for the end user, which is displayed with a transient application posture. You can have transient data, which is discarded after it is no longer needed by the computation, and transient code, which are subroutines or software components that are loaded in the system only for a fraction of the total runtime. And that makes sense because if you define the keyword, it's lasting only for a short time. So if I go back to the code, we can create getters and setters for this. So I'll put them at the top so it's easy to see. Let's say I have a setter, set social security number, takes in the social security number and sets the global variable or the class field. And I can also create a getter. Public int, it returns an int, social security number is an int. We can do get SSN, and then I just return SSN. Okay, so I have my getters and setters. I have my variable here. Let's write a quick note so you can remember this for the final exam. Transient fields will be skipped from serialization. Let's give it a try. So if I run this application and make sure it implements serializable, otherwise you'll have an error. Okay, we can test this out again. So I can put Nick 3. I'll put Nick 3 with a few spaces. Okay, gender is male this time. If I click on save, I can create a new file, person 2. Okay, you'll see it saved just fine. So if I close it, and if I open up person 2, we can look. Okay, we can't read all of it, but we can see some information. So you'll see the spaces that I put there. So you'll see I have person. This is the class, serialization example.person. You'll see I have an integer, which is age. I have first name, which is a string, gender, last name. I have Java lang integer, and I have a Java lang number. In fact, if I compare these two, the top describes what the fields are. Let's see, it looks like we had an error on that last one, so I can't really compare it. But if you go back to the previous video, this is the same as what was in there before. And I have some weird information, but I can see Nick, male, Nick with a bunch of spaces. Okay, so this top header does look similar, even though I've included a new variable. If I take this off, you will see SSN in there. Now, if I load this back in, so if I close the application, you'll see down here it's not running. So if I run it again, you'll see I have a blank field. I can now load the file. So I'll open up person 2, and look at that. I can resume exactly where I left off, and it even includes the spaces. So that's awesome. You'll see here I have a help menu. I also have an about section. Now this is a basic about section, okay? It just shows some basic information. This is the minimum that you should do for your about section. I've actually seen some really nice about sections on the final projects. Okay, you'll see the about sections right here. It should include a little bit of information about you as well as the application. The most important thing is the application. What is the app? How to use the app? Some cool about pages are actually little demo pages. I don't know if you've ever heard of Tour.js, or when you open up a bank app, it actually shows you how to use the app. It'll actually, highlight sections of the app and show you how to use it, or it'll pop up a video. So I've seen some students make a YouTube video. So when you go to the about page, there's a YouTube video there. You play it and it tells you how to use the application. Those are all great ways to earn bonus points. There's a framework, it's for web development, but you can get the basic idea. If you look at Tour.js, okay, it's a lightweight demo, and it has these things, little pop-ups, see, and it hovers over your app and tells you how to use the app. I've seen some people make these for their application on their about page, and actually has a little tour of how to use the application. Okay, so those are the good about pages. This is the minimum that you should do for your about page. Okay, what did we learn? If I want to serialize a class, I need to implement the serializable interface. If I don't want to include some of the information, if it's private or it's just not important, it shouldn't be included, I can label those variables as transient. In the main class, we passed over the stage so I can show the file choosers. In addition, in the next example, we're going to close the application, and when they close the application, we will serialize the object, or we'll make sure they serialize the object before they close the application. You'll see I have handle open as well as handle save. I have handle close, which closes the stage. I have the about section, create person from form data, fill person from form data, display the alert, and display the exception. Okay, those are all the methods in this controller. Now, this serialization method was not human readable. What if I want to use a human readable serialization type that I can pass over the web and it's commonly used among other platforms besides Java? So if I use this serialization method, the only way to deserialize it is using these built-in Java methods. What if I want to send an object from Java over to Python? Maybe I want to use another format that's more popular, more convenient, and doesn't even matter what programming language you're using. That's what I'm going to show you in the next video. So stick with Professor Wergeles and we'll take a look at the JSON example. We'll see you in the next video.